Chapter 6 of Tales from Silver Lands. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Keith Gormley. Tales from Silver Lands by Charles Finger. Chapter 6, The Magic Ball. A tale of the Kupit country. A cold-eyed witch lived in the Cordilleras, and when the first snow commenced to fall, she was always full of glee, standing on a rock, screaming like a wind gale, rubbing her hands, for it pleased her to see the winter moon, the green country blotted out, the valleys white, the trees snow-laden, the waters ice-bound and black. Winter was her hunting time and her eating time, and in the summer she slept. So she was full of a kind of savage joy when there were leaden clouds and drifting gales, and she waited and watched, ever ready to spring upon frost-stiffened creatures that went wandering down to the warmer lowlands. This witch was a wrinkled creature, hard of eye, thin-lipped, with hands that looked like roots of trees, and so tough was her skin that knife could not cut nor arrow pierce it. In the country that swept down to the sea, she was greatly feared and hated too. The hate came because by some strange magic she was able to draw children to her one by one, and how she did it no man knew. But the truth is that she had a magic ball, a ball bright and shining of many colors, and this she left in places where children played, but never where man or woman could see it. One day, near the lake called Oretta, a brother and sister were at play and saw the magic ball at the foot of a little hill. Pleased with its brightness and beauty, Natalia ran to it, intending to pick it up and take it home. But, to her surprise, as she drew near to it, the ball rolled away. Then a little way off came to rest again. Again she ran to it and almost had her hand on it when it escaped, exactly as a piece of thistledown does, just as she was about to grasp it. So she followed it, always seeming to be on the point of catching it, but never doing so. And as she ran, her brother Luis followed, careful lest she should come to harm. The strange part of it was that every time the ball stopped, it rested close to some berry bush or by the edge of a crystal-clear spring, so that she, like all who were thus led away, always found at the moment of resting something to eat or drink or to refresh herself. Nor, strangely enough, did she tire, but because of the magic, went skipping and running and jumping just as long as she followed the ball. Nor did anyone under the spell of that magic note the passing of time, for days were like hours, and a night like the shadow of a swiftly flying cloud. At last, chasing the ball, Natalia and Luis came to a place in the valley where the Rio Chico runs between great hills, and it was dark and gloomy and swept by heavy gray clouds. The land was strewn with mighty broken rocks, and here and there were patches of snow, and soon great snowflakes appeared in the air. Then boy and girl were terror-struck, for they knew, with all the wandering and twisting and turning, they had lost their way. But the ball still rolled on, though slower now, and the children followed. But the air grew keener and colder, and the sun weaker, so that they were very glad indeed when they came to a black rock where at last the ball stopped. Natalia picked it up, and for a moment gazed at its beauty, but for a moment only, for no sooner had she gazed at it and opened her lips to speak than it vanished, as a soap bubble does, at which her grief was great. Luis tried to cheer her, and finding that her hands were icy cold, led her to the north side of the rock where it was warmer, and there he found a niche like a lap between two great arms, and in the moss-grown cranny Natalia coiled herself up and was asleep in a minute. As for Luis, knowing that as soon as his sister had rested they must set out about finding a way home, he sat down intending to watch. But not very long did he keep his eyes open, for he was weary and sad at heart. He tried hard to keep awake, even holding his eyelids open with his fingers, and he stared hard at a sunlit hilltop across the valley, but even that seemed to make him sleepy. Then, too, there were slowly nodding pine trees, and the whispering of leaves coming in a faint murmur from the mountainside, so soon Luis slept. Natalia, being out of the blustering wind, was very comfortable, and in the little niche between the great stone arms she dreamed that she was at home. Her mother, she thought, was combing her hair and singing as she did so. So she forgot her hunger and weariness, and in her dreamland knew nothing of the bare black rocks and snow-patched hills. Instead, she seemed to be at home, where the warm firelight danced on the walls and lighted her father's brown face to a lively red as he mended his horse gear. She saw her brother, too, with his jet-black hair and cherry-red lips. But her mother, she thought, grew rough and careless and pulled her hair, so that she gave a little cry of pain and awoke. And then in a flash she knew where she was, and was chilled to the bone with the piercing wind that swept down from the mountain-top. Worse still, in front of her stood the old witch of the hills, pointing with knotty forefinger, and there were nails on her hands and feet that looked like claws. Natalia tried to rise but could not, and her heart was like stone when she found what had happened, and it was this. While she slept, the witch had stroked and combed her hair, and meanwhile wrought magic, so that the girl's hair was grown into the rock so very close that she could not as much as turn her head. All that she could do was to stretch forth her arms, and when she saw Luis a little way off, she called to him most piteously. But good Luis made no move. Instead, he stood with arms wide apart, like one who feels a wall in the dark, moving his hands this way and that. And then Natalia wept, not understanding and little knowing that the witch had bound Luis with a spell, so that there seemed to be an invisible wall around the rock, through which he could not pass, try as he would. But he heard the witch singing in her high and cracked voice, and this is what she sang. Valley all pebble-sown, valley where wild winds moan, come, mortals, come. Valley so cool and white, valley of winter night, come, children, come. Straight like a shaft to mark, come they to cold and dark, children of men. Then she ceased and stood with her root-like finger upraised, and from nearby came the voice of a great white owl, which took up the song, saying, Things of the dark and things without name, save us from light and the torch's red flame. Now all this was by starlight, but the moment the owl had ceased, from over the hill came a glint of light as the pale moon rose, and with a sound like a thunderclap the witch melted into the giant rock, and the owl flapped away heavily. "Brother," whispered the girl, "you heard what the owl said?" "Yes, sister, I heard," he answered. "Brother, come to me, I am afraid," said Natalia, and commenced to cry a little. "Sister," he said, "I try, but I cannot. There is something through which I cannot pass. I can see, but I cannot press through." "Can you not climb over, dear Louise?" asked Natalia. "No, Natalia, I have reached as high as I can, but the wall that I cannot see goes up and up." Is there no way to get in on the other side of the rock, dear, dear Luis? I am very cold and afraid, being here alone. Sister, I have walked around. I have felt high and low, but it is always the same. I cannot get through. I cannot climb over. I cannot crawl under. But I shall stay here with you, so fear not. At that, Natalia put her hands to her face and wept a little, but very quietly, as it pained Luis to see the tears roll down her cheeks and turn into little ice pearls as they fell. After a while, Natalia spoke again, but through sobs. Brother mine, you heard what the owl said? Yes, sister. Does it mean nothing to you? She asked. Nothing, he replied. But listen, said Natalia, these were the words, save us from light and the torch's red flame. I heard that, Natalia. What does it mean? It means, brother, that the things in this horrible valley fear fire. So go, brother, leave me a while, but find fire, coming back with it swiftly. There will be sickening loneliness, so haste, haste. Hearing that, Luis was sad, for he was in no mood to leave his sister in that plight. Still, she urged him, saying, Speed, brother, speed. Even then he hesitated, until, with a great swoop, there passed over the rock a condor wheeling low, and it said as it passed, Fire will conquer frosted death. You hear, brother, said Natalia. So, speed, and find fire, and return before night. Then Luis stayed no longer, but waved his sister a farewell, and set off down the valley, following the condor that hovered in the air, now darting away, and now returning. So Luis knew that the great bird led him, and he ran, presently finding the river, and following it until he reached the great Vega, where the waters met. At the meeting of the waters he came to a house, a poor thing made of earth and stones, snuggled in the warm fold of the hills. No one was about there, but as the condor flew high and, circling in the air, became a small speck, Luis knew that it would be well to stay a while and see what might befall. Pushing open the door, he saw by the ashes in the fireplace that someone lived there, for there were red embers well covered to keep the fire alive. So, seeing that the owner of the house would return soon, he made himself free of the place, which was the way of that country, and brought fresh water from the spring. Then he gathered wood and piled it neatly by the fireside. Next he blew upon the embers and added twigs and sticks until a bright fire glowed, after which he took the broom of twigs and swept the earth floor clean. How the man of the house came into the room, Luis never knew, but there he was, sitting by the fire on a stool. He looked at things, but said nothing to Luis, only nodding his head. Then he brought bread and yerba, and offered some to Luis. After they had eaten, the old man spoke, and this is what he said. Wicked is the White Witch, and there is but one way to defeat her. What, lad, is the manner of her defeat? Tell me that. Then Luis, remembering what the condor had said, repeated the words. Fire will conquer frosted death. True, said the man slowly, nodding his head. And your sister is there. Now, here comes our friend the condor, who sees far and knows much. Now with cold grows faint her breath. Fire will conquer frosted death. Having said that, the great bird wheeled up sharply. But no sooner was it out of sight than a turkey came running, and stood a moment gobbling. To it the old man gave a lighted brand, repeating the words the condor had spoken. So off sped the turkey with the blazing stick, running through marsh and swamp in a straight line, and Luis and the old man watched. Soon the bird came to a shallow lagoon, yet made no halt. Straight through the water it sped, and so swiftly that the spray dashed up on either side. High the turkey held the stick, but not high enough, for the splashing water quenched the fire, And seeing that, the bird returned, dropping the blackened stick at the old man's feet. "Give me another, for the maiden is quivering cold," said the turkey. "This time I'll run around the lake." "No, no," answered the man. "You must know that when the water spirit kisses the Fire King dies. So that you may remember, from now and forever, you will carry on your feathers the marks of rippling water." Down again swooped the condor, and a little behind him came a goose, flying heavily. As before, the condor cried, "Now with cold grows faint her breath, fire will conquer frosted death," then flew away again toward the witch mountain. To the goose the old man gave a blazing stick, and at once the brave bird set off, flying straight in the direction the condor had taken. Over vega and over lagoon she went, pausing only at a snow-clad hilltop, because the stick had burned close to her beak. So she dropped it in the snow to get a better hold, and when she picked it up again, there was but a charred thing. Sad enough, the goose returned to the house, bearing the blackened stick, and begged to be given another chance. "No, no," said the old man. "The silver snow queen's kiss is death to the Fire King. That is something you must remember. From now on and forever, you must carry feathers of gray like the ashes. But here comes the condor, and we must hear his message." Sadly then the goose went away, her feathers ash gray, and the condor wheeled low again, calling, "Fainter grows the maiden's breath, night must bring the frosted death." And having said, like an arrow he shot off. No sooner had he gone than the long-legged, long-billed flamingo dropped to the ground. "Your beak is long," said the old man, "but fly swiftly, for the stick is short." The flamingo took the burning stick by the end and made straight for the mountain, racing with all possible speed. As for Luis, he made up his mind to tarry no longer and set off running like a deer. But an ostrich, seeing him, spread her wings like sails and ran by his side. On her back Luis placed his hand, and with that help sped as fast as the flamingo. In the air the flamingo went like an arrow, resting not, although the blazing fire burned her neck and breast until it became pink and red. But that she heeded not. Straight up the valley to the rock where Natalia was bound went she, and into a heap of dried moss on the south side of the rock she dropped the blazing stick. Up leaped the dancing flames, and with a tremendous noise the rock flew into 1,000 pieces, and the power of the witch was gone forever. As for Natalia, she was at once freed, and with her gentle, cool hand stroked the breast of the flamingo so that the burns were healed. But as a sign of its bravery, the bird has carried a crimson breast from that day to this. As for Natalia and Luis, they lived for many, many years in the valley, and about them birds of many kinds played and lived and reared their young, and the magic ball of the witch lived only in the memory of men. End of The Magic Ball.